Peter Chang here, and welcome to part 39 of our Team Assoicated B44.2 build. And we're currently in the process of making sure that everything is dried off, and we're going to get ready to glue our tires. So go ahead and grab some wax paper because we don't want to damage the surface of anything. And if you don't have wax paper, something like saran wrap would also work too. You just might have to just weigh it down, for example. And what I'm going to do is just get my AKA inserts into this tire here. And admittedly, it's just kind of like a little tough squeeze. You may also need to trim the inserts too. If you, for example, if you're not using the AKA version, for example, I remember like if you use like a low C insert, you might need to trim some of those tires as well. Those inserts just slightly on the inside. I generally don't like to trim the insert because I have a tendency that if I do trim, I tend to trim a little too much. So leave the trimming the inserts up to you, but I just generally don't like the idea of trimming it. And I'm just going to ahead and just try to get this fit a little bit better. So I'm just kind of pushing it in. And I just kind of did like a dry fitting on that wheel just to see how well that would work. And we'll just go ahead and just squish it in. You just have to kind of just fold the insert down and then try to get it to unfold inside the tire. So we should be all set and we should be good to go. On some inserts, the insert itself is lopsided, but you would notice that during the dry fitting that when you're matching that on the wheel, if there's any kind of lopsidedness to your insert, you definitely want to trim it to make sure that everything is okay. Or you might want to decide that you want to mount one end of the insert to be the inside and the other side of the insert to be the outside. That is only if it's lopsided. In this case, both my AKA inserts aren't lopsided, so everything is good to go. So there we are, got that all in there. Next, I'm just going to go ahead and just squeeze this over the wheel. And admittedly, it's just a lot of like pulling and tugging to get this into place. And once I have this in place, I could begin my gluing process. But I'm just going to go ahead and just do like a little pinch here, and as I pinch, I'm just going to go ahead and just pinch and move, and just making sure that the tire is flush to the wheel. And not exactly rocket science in any way, but it's just more, I would just say it's more tedious than anything else. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get my CA glue, and CA just essentially stands for cyan acrylate glue, and essentially you could get some special glue as well too called tire glue, and tire glue is just another form of CA glue too. I just attached a rubber band around the wheel just to make sure that everything is going to fit in nicely so that nothing is shifting. But back to the differences between CA glue. Sometimes you would see CA glue marked as just, tire glue, and that's all good and fine too. Tire glue is just a thinner form of CA glue. When you venture off into, like, say if you're looking at model airplanes kits and all that stuff, model airplane glue is also CA glue, except it ships in different viscosities. There's for example, there's thin viscosity, there's a medium viscosity, and there's also a thick viscosity. The thicker the viscosity of the CA glue, the longer it takes to dry. So what you're going to find is that most tire glues tend to be thin viscosity, essentially it's just like once you just like put the glue on, it just basically just sets, locks, and stays in shape there. If you're like me and you like to putz around a little bit and just make sure that everything's okay, you really do need to have the rubber bands in place, and you may like to try a thinner or not say thinner, but a thicker viscosity. So I like to use the medium viscosity. The glue I'm using is called Zap-A-Gap medium viscosity CA glue, and I kind of found this glue just by accident. I stopped in a mom and pop hobby shop, and they specialized in planes, RC airplanes, more than they specialized in RC cars. And so I walked in the store, I was looking for tire glue for my RC car, and all they had were just many different types of CA glue for airplanes. So I just happened upon the Zap-A-Gap brand and just tried it out once. And what I found was I really do like the Zap-A-Gap brand CA glue. The other CA glue for planes that I do like a lot is the Superjet series of CA glue, and once again I also like the medium viscosity as well. And I just want to point this out because sometimes you might just find some mom and pop hobby shop that just doesn't carry all the brands of CA glue. As far as CA glue for tires though, I really do like the Racer's Edge brand of CA glue for gluing tires. However, you should note that the Racer's Edge brand of tire glue is like I was rated as like a thin viscosity because it glues very quickly. But it is one of the fastest gluing brands out there. So what I'm doing is just shifting and just making sure that everything is set. Just going to go ahead and put the rubber band on this just to make sure that it won't move. So you could actually put the rubber band on or before. Technically it's probably better to put the rubber band on before you glue. I'm not a stickler necessarily for rules because I'm using the medium CA glue, and I could actually get this to move around. The reason why I like medium is because sometimes as you're pulling out the lip and as you're pushing the tire back in, everything is shifting, and at some point you might want to go and correct that. So, and I don't want like a super fast acting glue because it might take me 1 or 2 minutes to notice the error. But everything seems fine, and I'll just let that settle and just come back, check the other one. This one looks like it's dried now, and that really didn't take too long for that side to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the bead side, and this part is tricky, so I'm just going to go ahead and try to get this set in a little bit more. And you notice that if you're familiar with Zap-A-Gap, I'm using the kind of long nozzle extension on here. Whatever CA glue you do go with, I highly suggest using the kind of fine tip point of the glue, or purchasing a fine point tip extender, so that when you do glue, you could glue more precisely and more in place. If you don't have this extender, you might find that the glue just kind of spreading around every which way and everywhere. And I also want to point out that the wax paper is helping out quite a bit, because every time I am gluing, I am dripping out some glue too. So it's nice to have that protector in the way of the wax paper. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull this out a little bit more, and just pull it out a little bit more, and I'm just getting this nice kind of bead on here, so it's kind of creating like this somewhat of a bead lock to this tire, and just making sure that everything is going in place. And I have to admit, sanding the tire really does help. It looks silly as you're sanding the tire sanding the wheel. It looks silly when you're sanding the wheel, but at this point in the process, I'm so glad I sanded the wheel, because nothing is slipping. Everything is pretty much just gluing in place. And I also highly suggest washing the wheel too. So just double checking, everything is looking good here, and we'll just pull that. So before you glue, you just want to make sure that the wheel is aligned to the tire correctly. and then glue away there. Some tires tend to shift a little bit more. Buggy tires tend to be a little bit easier to glue. One of the hardest tires to glue might be like a short course wheel or a monster tire wheel, just because the wheels are larger and they don't fit as well. But in this case, everything seems to be coming together, and I'm pretty happy with the way that the glue is coming along. And if you do get some glue spilled over, don't be afraid to use your finger, run it over, or just try to use some cleaning agent to clean it off a little bit too. There we are. So that is perfect. Grab the last tire, and I'm just going to move this rubber band a little bit so I could work with it a little easier, and just pull that back and just glue in that bead lock there, and we'll just let that glue in place. So if you start gluing and you think like, hey, this process is taking too long, my gluing is set correctly, I would highly recommend maybe you may want to just upgrade to the thin viscosity CA glue so that the glue does act a little faster. There we are. That is looking good. And then the big trick with tires is just to let it dry overnight. A lot of racers don't have the patience to let the tire dry overnight, but I just say that I like to let it dry overnight, so this way I can ensure that the CA would bond to the tire and the wheel is all set to rock and roll there. Thanks for watching, and remember, everything matters, and happy building the B44.2 RC car. Have fun.